Hello, this is Mariah Cruz, and you're listening to the Spiritual Deep Dives podcast. What if Jesus was not meant to be an exclusive figure of worship, but a universal avatar whose many lifetimes and teachings reveal a Christ consciousness and divine potential available to all humanity? The story of Jesus didn't begin or end with the Gospels. In this podcast series, we venture beyond the familiar pages of Scripture and into the missing years, post-resurrection appearances, and the deeper spiritual truths hidden within his teachings. Drawing from the wisdom of the ascended masters, historical research, and ancient spiritual traditions, we will explore Jesus as a divine man who walked a path of mastery that revealed the true science of spiritual enlightenment and soul liberation. This series is researched and presented by Joseph and Stephen Macchio, respected lecturers on ancient and modern spiritual teachings and authors of the groundbreaking book, The Orthodox Christian Conspiracy, available on Amazon, Google Books, and other major retailers. Additional information and links are provided in the show notes. So, without further delay, let's take a deep dive into the lives and inner teachings of Jesus, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords.
Welcome to Teachings of the Ascended Masters on uncovering the spiritual and historical life of Jesus. This is episode 1. I'm Stephen Macchio.
And I'm Joseph Macchio.
And we mentioned in our introduction a series about Jesus, the avatar of the Piscean Age, the teacher, the guru, the adept, about whom so much has been written. Right? Over 2,000 years, and still to this very day, there is all kinds of information about this wonderful...
we don't really know about. But you mentioned the Piscean Age, the avatar of the Piscean Age, okay? Are we still in the Piscean Age?
Right. Now, some people believe that, and I think this is accurate as we can possibly be, that the Piscean Age ended circa 2001 AD to 2002 AD. So, according to that calculation, we have been in the Aquarian Age for a little over 20 years.
Exactly. So, at this point, it's time to review, just what the life and teaching of Jesus was all about. What was the Piscean Age all about? Now, the Ascended Masters have given a tremendous amount of information about Jesus, his life, his mission, as we stated in the introduction. But much of this information, as you know, is in direct opposition to the orthodox version of Jesus' life.
Right, and we don't want to step on anyone's toes with this
Not
information.
necessarily.
I mean, in one sense, you can have your Jesus any way you want him. However, in this series, do not expect the traditional orthodox answers to the questions that we're going to be uncovering.
And we welcome everyone to consider the unorthodox, to consider what we are presenting and, put it on the shelf. If it's too unusual, too strange,
right?
Put it in the shelf and maybe at some point.
Right, and all orthodox means is right thought, right thinking. But the question is, who's thinking?
Who's thinking?
And whose thought? Is there an imposition of someone else's thought upon you? And are you thinking this way because you have been imposed upon by a certain way to think? And that's all we're doing. We're just saying, well, let's really use our free will here. And let's not go by any orthodox teaching per se. And let's just be discovering, let's try and discover what actually happened here.
And of course, that means that we are approaching Jesus not as a God, to be worshipped, but as a man and a divine man at that.
That's an important point because right off the bat, that is a traditional orthodox concept that Jesus is a God of the very gods in
or the
embodiment.
God.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, who else then has the opportunity to become a divine man?
Everyone.
And why? And
that's the great teaching of the ascended masters of wisdom and the teaching of the ages, going back thousands of years. But why? How? Well, we know that there is a threefold flame in the heart, and we have a slide on that. And this magnificent threefold flame is actually the opportunity to become divine, to become a Christ, to become a Buddha.
Right. It's also known as a divine spark. The spark of life. Without the threefold flame, you cannot become the divinity that you actually are. And that is signifying when that spark is there, that you have that opportunity. And, and Jesus took tremendous advantage of using that divine spark and taking it to where many people in the last 2,000 years have not taken it to. And this is the extraordinary accomplishment of Jesus.
Yeah. Because he walked the path of what might be called the bodhisattva. For you who are interested in the Buddhist path, a being of wisdom is the bodhisattva. And the bodhisattva lives only for the enlightenment and salvation of all sentient beings who have the divine spark. So my personal opinion is that Jesus himself, by the close of his embodiment as Jesus, or even before, had actually arisen through what they call the 10 stages of the path of the bodhisattva. And so this path, as the path of Christhood, is open to everyone. So this is one way of looking at Jesus, as a bodhisattva.
So when you look at it that way, it does not matter what path or what religious group you may affiliate with. You may not affiliate with anything. But you could be already on the path of the bodhisattva, regardless of what religion you are currently following or feel an affinity towards.
And you may not have any religion,
right?
As you said,
right?
You might not have any religion, but you're in service to humanity, and you love humanity. And when there is a problem in the world, you go for it. You pray, or you actually go and help the people that need to be helped.
So really, there's many ways to look at the life of Jesus.
Yeah.
And we're going to be going into as many ways as possible that, because he demonstrated different facets of himself to the people. Now, Jesus has usually been called the incarnation of God, according to Christian theology.
Yes.
So I'd like you to expand on that a little bit.
Okay, Well, Jesus is called an incarnation with a capital I. So in Orthodox Christianity, this incarnation of Jesus is the unique Son of God. And that incarnation is considered, as we know, a totally unique event in the history of mankind by the Orthodox. So he's supposed to have been the only begotten Son, the second person of the Trinity, only begotten. In other words, God had one Son.
And only one Son.
Do you have any remarks on that?
Right. I mean, so what they're trying to say is somewhat similar to the Hindu Trinity, but not quite, in that the Hindu Trinity is not depicted as that there's only one person that can possibly personify the second person. So you have the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit in Christian theology.
Yeah.
But what they're saying to me here is that God, the God of this is the same God who created the universes.
Right.
The same God who created everything that you see.
This is the Orthodox. You're speaking of
this is the Orthodox.
This is the Orthodox.
Certainly. Everything that you see, every star, every planet was made by this God.
Right.
Now, he decides arbitrarily, or perhaps in conjunction with the Holy Spirit, we're not told that.
Right.
That the only way that he could do anything for this particular planet, which is a little speck far off in the universe from wherever this alleged God is to create a son, the only one, and to go into human form? That's the common theology? That's what I was taught.
This is Western theology. And we are going to try to probe that theology. We know that it is not according to the teaching that has been understood for thousands of years or the teaching of Jesus himself. So where is the idea of a divine incarnation come from? As you say, it comes where? Hinduism. Hinduism is the teaching of the avatar, Avatar. So avatar, we're not talking about the movie. The avatar is a Sanskrit word meaning descent or a crossing over, right?
Right, okay.
So who is descending or what is descending? And again, as you brought out, we're going back to the tradition of Hinduism, and that descent is always of the second person of the Trinity, known as Vishnu, who's the preserver and the redeemer.
See, that's very interesting.
That's Vishnu.
Right.
So the avatars and descents of Vishnu in the past are Rama, Krishna, and even some Hindus believe that Gautama Buddha also was an avatar.
So what they're saying there is that you have a universal concept of the middle figure, the redeemer, the preserver, as Vishnu.
Yes.
But then when Vishnu wants to personify himself or itself, depending on what term you want to use there, it personifies itself as what you mentioned, Ram, Krishna, and
Gautama.
The rest.
It's personified. Therefore, we have to conclude, according to Hindu tradition and even esoteric Christianity, that there was not just one incarnation, but there are many incarnations of Vishnu, many of them. So this is, again, a point of departure from the orthodox Western theology. So, and some Hindus themselves recognize Jesus as an avatar of Vishnu.
So this sounds like a God that does not have his hands tied.
No.
He's not concerned about having only one Son of God. If Vishnu wants to incarnate and personify himself whenever he wants or whenever it's deemed necessary, he can do that, is what you're saying there.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
That's interesting.
And, in the West, we know the only begotten Son or the only Son. Okay, so Vishnu then equates with the so-called only begotten Son that we hear so much about in the Christian scriptures. So, which means that John's gospel actually is stating that Jesus is an avatar. So, Vishnu is the universal mind, the universal Christ, the universal cosmic preserver. So, as we mentioned, again, this is an understanding, this is a very good concept because we have to keep going back to it because that universal mind, that's where the one Son comes in. It doesn't mean one person became the incarnation. It meant that this one universal mind, universal mediator, individualized itself, multiplied, quote, itself in all those who originated from a divine source. You see,
that's the clarification that I have needed for years. Where were you when I was going to Catholic school and trying to figure this stuff out?
I was I was in the back trying to convince you.
See, but that one clarification is extremely
You didn't
important.
believe me.
Well, I'm trying to say. That's an extremely important clarification because once I got the idea of there's only one Son, then it tainted my view of other religions, actually.
It did.
Because then I looked at Hinduism or I looked at any other religion, Judaism or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was tainted by saying, well, they have a good religion, but it's not the true religion because they don't believe in the only Son of God, which is manifest in Jesus. I think differently now.
I should hope so. I certainly should hope so.
Let's review now. So John, in John's Gospel, what he's actually writing. Let's read what he actually means.
Wait a minute. I just had a sip of coffee. Wow.
The most important part of the show, and he's drinking coffee.
It pays to get the best.
Okay, so in John's gospel, you were saying
the term logos. The term logos, which means the divine thought or the divine reason made manifest. So John, of course, being from the West, he is using this Greek term logos, okay? So when the divine thought manifests, it's called the word. Logos, word, which in Sanskrit is vak or voice. So we're talking about a sound as well as divine thought, the divine reason. So John writes, right, and the logos, Vishnu, right, was made flesh and dwelt among us. And we beheld his glory, the glory as of, meaning like, the only begotten of the Father, Brahma, full of grace and truth.
I see. So
you see how it all
So you can see
together.
The correlation of voice with the word, because the word is used, and you have Jesus saying things like, my sheep know my voice. They're tuning into the word that is emanated out of the person who is personifying Vishnu at the time.
Yes.
The same thing could have been said when Ram talked to his disciples and the people that were following Rama, or the people that were following Krishna.
Yeah.
So that's a very important clarification that voice and vak and the word are all signifying the same thing.
Exactly. And of
very
course,
interesting.
This then puts Jesus on a par with Krishna and Rama.
Right. And Gautama and anyone else.
Many would disagree with that.
Mm-hmm.
And and this in no way belittles Jesus. Because being on a par with Rama and Krishna is, it's the only begotten universal mind that's in everyone.
And we should really be looking at the idea that by God's grace, or thank God, that this universal mind does send his avatars in order to help mankind in its evolutionary process.
Yes,
and look at how many times it takes for an avatar to come here to help our evolutionary process. Like you said before, we know, some of now there are others that could personify the Christ mind, but may not be an avatar. And we'll talk about that maybe a little bit later.
Right.
So the mind of Vishnu then would be in everyone who comes from a divine source via the divine spark.
Yes.
You have to have the divine spark.
Yes.
So evolutions that do not have the divine spark within the heart, which is on the etheric plane, would not have access to be able to personify this universal mind.
And we will be talking about that in the fact that many of great souls of light in the past, past incarnations, past embodiments, may have, through karma, maybe lost that spark. And therefore, that's another subject which we will be discussing. And it can always be reignited. But Jesus became the embodiment of the divine mind, as did the other avatars. But that's after much striving and after many lifetimes. So, the divine mind is always said to descend into the body and consciousness.
I see. So that's a process.
Stephen, what does it take to be an avatar? I mean, how do you become one? How long does it take?
Well, I did it in a couple of years, actually. No, that process of being an avatar. Now,
let me touch you. Wow.
Let's distinguish here for a moment.
I'm touching an avatar. This is wonderful.
I want to distinguish here for a moment that when we use the term avatar, according to the teachings of the Ascended Masters, it means that particular person has expiated upwards of 98, 94, 93%, 93, 94% of their karma. And they usually retain 7 or so percent in order to stay in embodiment. So when the question is asked, how long does it take to be an avatar? Would depend on how many incarnations do you need to expiate enough karma to have only 6 or 7% left. So you're at somewhere around balance of 93 or 94% based on 100. Based on 100%.
Based on
93
100.
or 94% would be expiated, cleared. You're no longer carrying that weight. So for some, it may take, hundreds of incarnations, 50 incarnations for others. I mean, I don't think you can actually, specify.
No, I don't think so. But there is at least the potential, and we don't really know how long it takes, even though we're asking that question. Sometimes you rise in other lifetimes to great heights of spirituality, and then in another life, due to various initiations and tests that you may fail, you might lose certain percentages.
Right.
So, that's another teaching all in itself. But then, then we have to ask, how did Jesus become an avatar? And so we are now going to depart again from orthodoxy and say, Jesus had past lives. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So this is something that we would love all Christians to embrace, the fact that there are past lives and there is tremendous opportunity because of that.
And reaching that type or that level of perfection is very different becoming an avatar, if that's one's goal. And that you can have the Christ mind working in you, like St. Paul said, let that mind be in you that was also in Christ Jesus, does not mean that he's waiting for you to be an avatar in order for that to happen. You can have the Christ mind appearing and you can be in it and use it prior to balancing 93 or 94% of your karma. Now, Jesus was way up at 93, 94. He retained 7% of planetary karma, which wasn't even really his own, in order to stay in embodiment.
I thought it was 7% of his personal karma, but you're saying now it's...
Well, let's split the difference. I don't think the masters said specifically, but there is, conversations that talk about Jesus carrying planetary karma.
And that is true. We will get to that. Yeah, that is true. So that is true.
There's some percentage in there that could be planetary karma.
Yeah.
And he could have had some of his own karma. Needless to say, he has a very, very small percentage.
And that is why certain presentations of Jesus' life, certain motion pictures, for instance, would depict Jesus, and I'm thinking of the Last Temptation of Christ, depict Jesus as struggling terribly against all kinds of temptations in that last life, whereby, in fact, in previous lives, Jesus may have struggled, but in that last life, you couldn't say that he struggled against the same type of carnal mind and heavy karma in that last life, because that was already expiated.
That's a good point.
And a lot of these authors are trying to understand Jesus, and therefore they have him struggling terribly, with temptations, for instance, all kinds of things in that last life.
Right. Not that he wasn't tempted, but these authors and these directors are trying to depict Jesus as a mere man who became something more. And sometimes I think they crossed the line and went a little bit too, like you're saying, a little bit too far into having these. There was that other film that I never liked from years ago where he was tempted with Mary Magdalene.
Yeah.
He had all these thoughts like he was just, a regular guy who would have any other temptation with any other woman.
Who has about...
Right, but when you have that much karma balance, like you're saying, that's not going to be quite like that.
No, it won't be. I just want to kind of clarify that. And of course, we have the situation now of pre-existence, past lives, and that's something that is not understood by our beloved Christians. All beings who issued from a divine source, obviously, have pre-existed the body from beginningless time.
So you're talking about the pre-existence of the soul.
Yes.
Prior to having a physical body.
Yes, pre-existence of the soul. And of course, then it reincarnates through many ages. But we find out that this was an established teaching for thousands of years, okay? In the East, in the West, in the teachings of Hermes, which was Egyptian/Greek.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the precursors of Jesus' teaching and his way of life, the Essenes. About everyone was talking about the Essenes, and they still are,
right?
In terms of the Dead Sea Scrolls. So the historian Josephus before and during the time of Jesus, talked about the Essenes and pre-existence. Philo of Alexandria, who was a great Jewish mystic and writer, also talks about pre-existence, reincarnation, but it was around in those days. And, he talks about these various contemplative groups like the Therapeutai, which means the healers in Egypt, all about, and, believe it or not, the sect of the Pharisees. The Pharisees had a secret doctrine which included pre-existence and reincarnation. And that's from biblical scholar, the late Hugh Schoenfield. So I wanted to read a few excerpts. Stephen, hand me that book over there. Thank you. It says here, Jewish historian Josephus, Wars of the Jews. He describes the religious doctrine of the Pharisees. Every soul they maintain, meaning the Essenes, is imperishable, but the soul of the good alone passes into another body, while the souls of the wicked suffer punishment. That's his understanding of what they talked about. So now we already know that the soul passes into another body. So this doctrine was around the 1st century, and Paul, the apostle, was a Pharisee too. So, and we're going to get to that. According to Josephus, the Essenes taught the pre-existence of the soul. Quote, Josephus again, for their doctrine is this, that bodies are corruptible, and that the matter they are made of is not permanent, but the souls are immortal and continue forever, and that they come out of the most subtle air and are united to their bodies as in prisons, into which they are drawn by a certain natural enticement. But that when they are set free from the bonds of the flesh, they then, as released from a long bondage, rejoice and move upward.
Wow.
This is Josephus. Now, he also talks about the Essenes being reading many books. They're perpetually conversant in the discourses of the prophets, as was Jesus, and they seldom miss in their predictions. So we know that Jesus predicted, for instance, the fall of Jerusalem.
Right.
40 years before the fact. Now we come to Philo, who lived from 20 BC to AD 54. He says, the air is full of souls, those who are nearest to the earth, descending to be tied to mortal bodies, return to other bodies, desiring to live in them.
Very interesting.
Isn't that interesting? So, it's a prevalent doctrine.
Before Jesus arrives on the scene, this is
way before.
Right.
Way before Jesus arrives on the scene.
So now I always thought that was very important to know, is what is the religious theologies around before Jesus incarnates. And something else I want to say here is that as a child, that always bothered me. I wasn't that young, but it always bothered me that if you have a God that is going to create souls, but he couldn't create a soul until a physical body was created, meant to me that man was really in charge. That until I create a physical body, now send me a soul. It's almost a demand on God saying, I have a physical body coming here, you need to send me a soul. So is God saying, oh boy, based on the population growth of a given planet, I have to create these souls. And man is in charge of me because they're making a demand on me. So, but what if when it's all the way around the other way, it makes much more sense that the souls are pre-existing, waiting to come into embodiment, and that the burden is on the other side. And I would also add that what if God didn't want to send a soul? I mean, does he have to? And we'll talk about that later, maybe a little bit when we get to that section. But I understood it better when the demand was on the other side.
Very, very interesting point. Very interesting point. Well, we know that Jesus had previous lifetimes, as we all have. So they actually go back to the lost continents of Mu and Atlantis. Now, we were talking in the introduction about the fact that the Ascended Masters have given a tremendous amount of information which is not recorded necessarily in any kind of books that we know of, from the Akashic records. The past records of everything that has been done, of course, in matter has been recorded. Every lifetime, the entire history of Earth and other planets is recorded. So the Masters have access to these records, and we're going to call upon some of these records.
Right. And you had said Mu there, and Mu is Lemuria. Some people might not understand what Mu is. It has nothing to do with the cows of the field, that's for sure. So it's Lemuria and Atlantis. Lemuria, to some extent, predates Atlantis, but the continents many times are up at the same time.
Yeah.
And this is something that geologists today just refuse to go into, and that's okay. And we don't want to get into the timelines of of when these places were up. We're just saying that Jesus has been around for a long time, and it doesn't mean that because he embodied on Lemuria that he had so much karma that he had to embody that long, and that this will be revealed to you as we reveal some of these embodiments of Jesus.
Yeah. So the past lives of Jesus, the earliest one we've been given is Abel, the son of Adam and Eve. So Adam and Eve were actually initiates in the mystery school that was known as the Garden of Eden. This is from the Masters now. It was located on Lemuria in the Pacific, very close to where San Diego is now, believe it or not. So Adam and Eve were initiates. They had a great mission to fulfill on behalf of mankind. And this was during the period of what is called the fourth root race. It could be hundreds of years ago, thousands, or even 1,000,000 years ago. And they were tempted by, as you know, the fallen angel known as Serpent. Well, who actually was Serpent? A snake?
Well, that's what they want you to believe in the Garden of Eden story. But the concept of the serpent was actually the angelic of the angelic order of the hierarchies of heaven.
Yeah,
and the one who was known as serpent meant that they had raised the fire of the base of the spine, also known as the Kundalini.
Yes,
and they had the attainment to raise that sacred fire from the base of the spine up to the crown chakra, coming over the crown to the third eye, giving them third eye vision and the illumination of the crown chakra. And they were very advanced and had tremendous attainment. And they were known as the serpents. So the serpent, it's an interesting thing because in some areas of theology, the serpent is bad, and sometimes the serpent is good. You see the serpent on the staff of the medical profession, being the caduceus action, right? Like you're saying. So in this case, the serpent is someone who had tremendous attainment, who was, or should I say, who inserted themselves, or he inserted himself into the Garden of Eden.
Right. And this individual known as Serpent, or a fallen angel, actually, eons before Adam and Eve, took the dark side. They went over to the dark side, and we all know what that means. And so this individual, as you say, infiltrated the mystery school and kind of gave them an alternate path. Now, they were under a guru called the Lord God in Genesis. That guru actually was the one today known as Lord Maitreya Buddha. Buddha Maitreya. He was the guru and the teacher. And so Serpent said, you can circumvent your teacher. I know how to very quickly get your mission fulfilled without going through all of this path of initiation that you have to do through the guru. Maitreya, the so-called Lord God. That's how it's described. So as a result of this disobedience, we all know the story. They were driven out of the Garden of Eden, or this mystery school, and had to make their way in the world, now bearing the karma of disobedience, which was no little matter.
Right. So as you were saying, Abel, he doesn't last very long.
No, he doesn't. We don't know how long. We don't know how long, right. So they're driven out, right? So Eve gives birth to Cain, her firstborn. And then she gives birth to Abel. And as, of course, we know, Cain killed Abel out of anger and jealousy because he was very jealous because the guru, meaning Maitreya, rejected Cain's offering. And a lot of people don't understand that. Why would he reject the offering? Well, what was the motive? The motive for the offering was not pure. It was to control the teacher. That's Cain's motive.
And that's a very important point because so much of what we do goes to motive, not the action itself.
Yes.
It's what's behind your action that really counts for everything.
Yes.
So if you're doing something that is seemingly good, but it's in order to manipulate an individual, a group, an organization, whatever, then the motive is impure, and the Lord God, Maitreya Buddha, says, I am not going to accept that.
Yes.
And that was devastating to Cain. He didn't like that.
No, it was devastating, and he left, but Cain himself, again, eons before, had gone over to the dark side.
Right.
Another individual who went to the dark side. So that's Genesis 4, and the story of, as you know, of Abel and Adam and Eve, is Genesis chapter 2 and 3. So that's very interesting. So that was Jesus' life. But then what happens? He comes back and reincarnates as Seth, S-E-T-H, another son of Adam and Eve, from Genesis 4 to 5.
So to be clear here, we are saying that the soul of Jesus, after being killed by Cain, the soul of Jesus, who was Abel, re-embodies as Seth to the same parents. That's a very interesting, because you're setting up now a karmic pattern between the parents, right? Adam and Eve, the parents, and then you have these two brothers. And now he's re-embodying again to see what's going to happen again. This is another opportunity.
There's another opportunity. And these karmic connections, go on for many lifetimes.
Right.
You find out that you incarnate with the same souls in many cases. So who was Seth, really? He was known as a great patriarch. He had many sons and daughters, and, get this, he lived to the age of 912.
Now, how is that even possible?
Well, this is what I think. No, we know from the Master's teachings that if we look at the chart of the presence, we see that there is the crystal cord. Now, during that period of time, going back to Mu in Lemuria, the crystal cord was much wider. And I want to say 9 feet, but I'm not sure exactly. 9 feet wide. That means that people lived. And a lot of people say, well, those hundreds of years that the patriarchs lived in the Bible can't be true. Calculation must be off. But we do know for a fact that people and ourselves in past embodiments would be living, if we were living during this epoch, to the same ages. I mean, it's unusual now. There are people that live to 100, but it's unusual to live,
900 is 912. That's the crystal cord is what you're referring to. It's mainly known as that.
And you see that in the chart of the presence. That is very wide. Now it's very thin.
It's very thin, right? Yeah. When you look at it in the chart.
And that was done by the karmic lords.
So there's all the energy for a lifetime and the expansion of a lifetime. It's regenerative. If you have that much light flowing into the body.
The body doesn't age. I mean, maybe it eventually does.
But it just takes longer to do that.
It takes much longer,
Okay.
So Seth was a very interesting character. His descendants were known as the seed of Seth.
Hmm.
Quote, the offspring of the light, the
That's
living
very...
and unshakable race. Now, this is a very high, quote, seed. Seth is known to have given teachings preserved on stone tablets.
Wow.
I know.
I didn't know that.
It's amazing. And this embodiment also took place on Lemuria. Now, we're going to go to a forbidden text.
I like forbidden text.
Uh-oh. The three stills, S-T-E-L-E-S, meaning stone tablets of Seth. The three stills of Seth. This is from the Nag Hammadi Library. Mm-hmm. This was suppressed by the church fathers, so don't.
No, this is not. This is,
okay.
You're in forbidden territory
circles,
here.
Certain circles you don't. So I'd like to quote from this text.
Okay.
Okay. It begins as a revelation of Dositheus. Now, this guy, Dositheus, was a disciple of Seth. And he begins reading the first tablet written by Seth. And this is what Seth is now writing. Now, remember, we're talking about a previous life of Jesus. So let's look at some of the similarities. He says, I bless thee, Father. I, as thine own son, Seth, whom thou didst beget, as a blessing of our God, for I am thine own son. Now you see, this is an attainment that Jesus has
already
thousands and thousands of years, which was carried over, but he never lost that understanding, you see. I am thine own son, and thou art my mind, O my Father.
See, and that ties into what you were saying before about Jesus actually being a bodhisattva.
Yes.
So regardless of what karma he may make or how much karma he may expiate, he comes back again because he has the bodhisattva vow, which again is to come and save the people of a planet until all sentient beings are being raised up. And that makes sense here, where
yes, it does.
Even though that long ago, someone might say, well, if he's that advanced then, why does he have to live so many lives?
And that's the important point. See, in this state of mind, consciousness, he could have ascended.
Yes.
You see, it doesn't mean that Jesus, he had to wait all these lifetimes. He wasn't quite ready yet. That's not the case.
Right. That's
the answer is what you said. The answer is the bodhisattva. But there's a lot of other reasons we're going to be discussing when he gets into making, certain karma, quote, with vast numbers of people.
Yes.
That he has to carry through. We're going to be talking about that in life.
Is there more of this quote?
Oh,
left?
yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
It says here, see this over here?
Yeah, I got the same script as you. You got to keep reading it.
All right. I bless thee, Father. Bless me, Father. It is because of thee that I exist. It is because of God that thou dost exist. Now, the Father here is differentiating between the Father and God. So the Father is his guru.
Again. Because he references the Father in his life as Jesus all the time.
Do you see how, and if we went back to our past lives, we would also see many similarities that we possess in this life. See, it's not just Jesus, but you begin to see this with Jesus. Everyone has this experience. So it is because of God that thou dost exist. Bless me, Father. It is because of thee that I exist. It is because of God that thou dost exist. You, my guru, exist because of God. Because of thee, I am with that very one, capitalized. Thou art light, since thou beholdest light. Thou hast revealed light. The light is repeated in John's Gospel and other Gnostic texts too. I bless thee as God. I bless thy divinity. See, the guru is God. Like in the Buddhist, the guru, the teacher, is always Buddha.
Yes.
The guru is always God, you see. Now, in the second tablet, Seth says, he is that one hidden in the heart.
Now, there's a direct reference to that divine spark.
Yes. Isn't that amazing?
Flame, which
is amazing.
Completely contains the consciousness of God.
Yeah.
So the hidden man of the heart, the divine spark, or what was just said here, hidden in the heart.
He is that one hidden in the heart.
Right. And that's that universal God that is placed in all sons and daughters of God.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a very exalting consciousness.
It is.
It makes you realize that you are not just a miserable sinner,
right,
trying to wade through the machinations of the fallen ones and the things they do to you on this planet, and the situations you get into karmically, whether it's family, whether it's planetary.
Yes.
If we all go back to realize that there is that one hidden in the heart that we all have, then we can say the same thing.
Exactly. That is the beauty of the teaching of Jesus. And we'll see it repeated over and over again. So in the third tablet, he says, O unconceived, from thee are the eternal ones, plural, and the eons, which actually, in this understanding, they are divine hierarchical beings, divine beings that form a hierarchy, the eons, Aeons, the all-perfect ones. So right there, we have the understanding of hierarchy,
right,
of many, many divine beings, not just one divine being, Jesus, being the Son, as Western theology avers. So I thought that this,
yes,
it's
a very good,
a remarkable similarity to Jesus' own,
and that's all the way back at the time of Seth.
Yeah, you know how long ago that could be? I mean, we're looking at perhaps hundreds of thousands of years.
It's amazing.
That's how long it is. So we have other embodiments that we want to discuss.
Right. And perhaps there are several more embodiments coming up. So I think maybe we should close this episode with this embodiment of Seth. And then in episode 2, we will pick up with the continuation of the various different lifetimes and embodiments of Jesus and how he came to be what we know him as today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen and Joseph, for sharing your findings and insights. In the next episode, they will explore the question, what if Jesus' life was not a single incarnation, but a long soul journey through Atlantis, ancient Israel, prophets, kings, and initiations, each lifetime revealing how the Christ consciousness is slowly earned, tested, and internalized across many ages. Thank you for listening to Spiritual Deep Dives. If you like this content, please like and subscribe to our podcast. We'll catch you in the next episode.